Okay, hello everybody. This is the FAQ that we were talking about for Whispers of the Infinite. So, big thing to talk about, we've got a few things to talk about the setting and stuff, but we did get a couple of questions, so we will start with that. Now, Loremother, why don't you start with answering the first question, which was given to us by our wonderful friend SF Vegan Bro.
Mm-hmm.
Why one hit point?
Why one hit point indeed? So, the system we were playing with is called Stars Without Number, and Stars Without Number is a game that is modeled after older versions of tabletop games, including Dungeons and Dragons and such, when things were a lot more difficult.
Um,
And
Stars Without Numbers is specifically based on Original Traveler,
yes.
which Original Traveler was D&D in space.
Um, and so the what ended up happening is you roll I think it's 1d6
Mm-hmm.
at the start to figure out what your hit points are, and then you add your constitution modifier. Mine was 0 and I rolled a 1. So I got the very minimum amount of hit points that you could get for a character at starting at level 1 for
Yep.
this game. So we got to deal with the tension that provides in our first session, which was fun.
Yes.
You'll be happy to know that I have since leveled up, and Ruby now has a higher armor class and a whole 8 hit points.
Um, I think you only had one attack roll made against you in that first session.
One that succeeded, only one that succeeded.
Um,
Oh, well, no, none of them succeeded, otherwise they would be
yes.
dead. So I think there was only one attack roll made against me.
Yep, that was the security guard by the door who pulled out a revolver and shot you
Right,
with a revolver.
right.
Except
Because
I
all the other
rolled
ones were wielding
garbage.
batons, so they needed to get in melee range, and I was trying to keep distance.
And you successfully kept distance.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a little bit about the setting,
Mm-hmm.
it is a post apocalyptic setting, but it is a sci fi post apocalyptic setting.
I mean, I think most post-apocalyptic settings are generally sci-fi, but
Well, this is futuristic. We'll go with that.
it's
There's
put the
interspace travel.
apocalypse was not a singular world, it was all of space.
Yes.
All of human all of like human interacted space.
And then some.
And
But
then some. Yeah.
we only tell stories based on the humans because
That's where we are.
that is where we are.
And it's very rare that any player characters get beyond where humans have already settled.
We are in a sector called Amber Theta. Um, I have built a personal wiki for um, both myself and for Lore Mother. Um, and I'm sure we've both added to it since last weekend.
I have. Right now, what I have is Lupe is a coward, which it actually already says in there, but I also added way more expletives to that.
You're not happy with Lupe after
I'm
that
not happy
first.
with Lupe. It is definitely going to be. She did end up paying me in the end, which leads me to believe she wasn't just trying to send me to my death. She just didn't want to give me the full details at the get-go, which is really annoying for me, especially given like that, I am a friendly person and I feel like I would that was taken advantage of.
It
She's friendly
certainly
but she's
was.
not dumb, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So she she she'll Ruby will remember this. Um, and she probably won't be doing any more jobs for Lupe for some time.
Understandably so.
Hmm.
So, there are several planets that are possible for Ruby to go to.
In the particular system that we're in right now, there are two other inhabited planets.
Yes, without traveling to different star systems, which you can travel to other star systems. Faster than light travel does exist.
It's just difficult.
It is difficult and or expensive, and Ruby does not have what she needs.
Yep. I do not yet have a spaceship, and I am really, really want one. Um, so that's a big part of Ruby's whole like kind of character arc is she really wants a spaceship.
She wants to be a space racer.
She wants to be a space racer. So when I kind of created this kind of added a little bit of world building into this. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I just like really wanted to be a space racer? Then I almost accidentally built Anakin Skywalker. I decided explicitly not to give her any psionic ability, so she wasn't Anakin Skywalker. Um, I'd say she's like a very like somebody when I was describing Ruby to them, they were like, she sounds like a super ambitious version of Audrey from Atlantis, and I'm like, yes, that's a good description.
That's an old movie.
That's an old movie. I'm like, all you 90s kids out there, I think it actually came out in the early 2000s, but still.
It came out around 2000.
Yeah, good movie. Milo was one of my first crushes, which tells you a lot about the kind of guys I like.
Understandably.
Yeah.
You weren't all about those Atlanteans?
Oh gosh, no, I want my nerd boys. Um, so Ruby really so in this world there's this thing we've come up with this thing that there is a race that is a cross a sector wide race that happens once every 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and the best people in each of their star systems leagues can enter the race. It's kind of like the Space Racers Olympics. And so she doesn't even have a starship yet, so she can even enter her league. But right now, she is saving up money by racing hover cycles on the streets of Tobzim, which is the city that she lives in on the planet of Shakur. Why don't we talk a little bit about Shakur and kind of what the vibe is there?
Yeah.
We had a little bit of it in our first session.
So, one of the things that I decided with Shakur is obviously it is very similar to a certain famous musician's last name, although it is spelled differently.
Mm-hmm. It is Shakoor.
Yes. So I decided to look up the word Shakur just to see where it comes from, and it is originally an Arabic word. I don't remember what it means. So what I have decided is when the planet was originally settled about 1,000 years ago, it was settled mainly by people from the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the city names are going to be English bastardizations of Arabic place names. So, like the city of Taubiz, that is a. I don't remember what that originally is. It's based off of the name of a town from Syria. And then the capital city is El Arabi, which again is another Arabic town name. But although the planet does have its capital, the government has essentially no power because the planet is run by a bunch of megacorporations. Ruby works for one megacorp, Lavinway.
Lavenway Cottonbine. Yeah, and
Yes.
they make automotives.
Um, it is a transport, so,
Transport.
but Ruby is a mechanic for them.
Yep. So I just looked it up, and apparently Shakur is a Muslim boy name, and it's Arabic. It it its origin is from Arabic, and it means thanks, like as in thank you or appreciation, gratitude.
Fantastic.
Yeah. At least that's what a quick Google search told me. So, like, I mean, that could totally be wrong. I do not speak Arabic, so if anybody speaks Arabic, and would like to correct me.
And there is also another big thing that is happening on the planet is just recently there is a valuable mineral found called jodium.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what Lupe had been doing is she had been trying to be an independent miner of jodium.
But her claim got jumped.
Yes. Or at least that's what she told you.
Yes. Um, whatever happened, she ended up making enemies with someone at a major corporation, and the corporations run everything on Shakur.
Yes. Except for the capital city.
Yes, which is a puppet government.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that is the whole vibe we're going with the city is very cyberpunk, um, maybe even Shadowrunny.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, with Tobzim, yeah, the idea is that it's like kind of like that tiered city where like the up and ups live on like the very in like penthouse apartments in the tops of skyscrapers in businesses that they own and such, and there's residential neighborhoods for the very small middle class that exists. It's a very divided. The majority of the population is poor and live
mm-hmm.
in what's called the underslums, which is below the ground, and they people tend to work underneath the buildings that they work in.
Yep.
So she lives 14 levels below the factory that she works
She lives 14 levels below their lowest sub basement.
in. Yes.
So she probably actually lives like 20 stories underground.
Yep.
Which is really deep.
Yep. Now I have to wonder, like, how thick is this planet?
So judging by the weather and the atmosphere and everything, it's about Earth sized.
Okay. It's about Earth size.
So 14 stories below is probably getting pretty close to the bottom.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Well, I mean, some pretty massive things would have to happen for her apartment to feel anything being that far underground.
Yeah.
And that's roughly 200 feet beneath the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy far.
Crazy far.
There are psionics in this game.
I gotta imagine what would happen if there would like an earthquake.
Let's hope we don't find out.
I hope she doesn't live on a fault line. Gosh. Like you mentioned that this was like kind of like a gold rush thing, and now I'm just thinking about 1906. I came from San Francisco, so this is just like
I actually have a picture. It's currently in my basement
Mhm.
of San Francisco in the wake of the 1906 earthquake. And basically just looking out over the devastation. It's crazy.
Yeah. I actually grew up in one of the few buildings to survive the 1906 earthquake.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, the city that Ruby lives in is based more off Seattle than it is based off of San Francisco.
Which is good. There are still
I
fault
mean,
lines near Seattle, but
kind of.
um definitely not nearly as dangerous as living on a tiny peninsula. It's probably nearly as jam-packed as San Francisco though,
Probably.
as far as like density, like population density.
Yes.
If not more so. Maybe closer to Manhattan.
Um, Although, there are probably parts of this city
Hmm.
that have populations that are closer to the Kowloon walled city,
Mm.
which I don't know if you know how densely packed the Kowloon walled city was.
I don't.
Um, if all of humanity was packed in that tightly, the entire population of Earth could fit on the island of Manhattan. Um, yeah, there was an average of, I think it's 1.5 square meters per person.
Wow.
So there's probably places on Shakur that have that. Luckily, Ruby's apartment is a bit bigger than that. She probably has, I would say, a good 25 square meter
Mhm.
place.
Yeah.
So, 5 meters by 5 meters. So 15 feet by 15 feet.
Yeah.
Really small, but
But yeah, I'm
it could be
imagining
much
like one of
smaller.
those places with a, like a pop-out bed
She
and like
very well could have that, yeah.
yeah, she's like a pop-out bed and like a toilet in the corner, like no bathroom, just a toilet in the corner and maybe a makeshift curtain, and then a stove, a sink.
So I was actually imagining what she has for bathroom wise, similar to what I had when I worked in Yellowstone for a summer.
Because
So,
alternatively, it could be a shared bathroom like in SROs.
well, we've already established that she has her own shower in her
That's
apartment.
right. Which
So,
probably isn't. I'm imagining that it's probably not a like full shower. It's probably just like floor, grate in the ground, and like a shower head.
what I'm imagining is she's got the small room that
Mm-hmm.
like intrudes into her space,
Mm-hmm.
and you open the door,
Mm-hmm.
you take a step forward, you climb over the toilet so you can shut the door, and then you walk the 2 steps into the shower.
Yep.
And it is so small, the sink has to actually be on the outside.
Yeah. Well, I actually imagined that there was only one sink and it was the one in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm imagining with that. Ruby obviously has neighbors all around.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually probably say there's only one wall that is not shared, and that's the wall that has her front door in it.
Are there people below me? How deep does this go?
There would be people below.
Hmm.
I don't know how far yet. Maybe another 5 stories.
So maybe like 19 to 20.
Yeah.
Deep underground.
So I mean,
Living in
like,
the Underdark.
obviously, you can be worse off than Ruby is,
Hmm.
but not a ton.
Yeah. I'm, at least when it comes to this planet's culture.
Yes.
Yeah. But, it's one of those things where I really wanted to make a character like, yeah, this is her lot in life, but like this is what life is. And so she kind of has her whole goal isn't to try and escape this life, but it's just she just likes the idea of like seeing places that are outside of this because she's only really experienced like factory, shitty apartment, and then the shitty apartment that her parents lived in.
Yeah.
Which is probably only slightly bigger because I'm sure they have like units for families. Um, but she her whole like kind of the idea with this character is I wanted to create somebody who was had this like temper of like who had like optimism that was tempered by pragmatism, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody who like this is just her culture, her life, and she tries not to let it get to her because otherwise what's the life worth living?
Mm-hmm.
Um and I thought one of the interesting story ideas to one of the interesting like kind of themes we can do is seeing how this kind of like gritty dangerous world like kind of tests that, and you already got to see some of that in our first session, and
Yep.
I'm really excited to see where this goes. And I don't want to necessarily break Ruby. That's not my goal. I've had characters where I that was definitely the intention. But I think more the goal is to have a level of nuance and positivity, but also being like like yeah, I get it. Things are shitty, but like you can't just dwell on that because this is the way of the world in this in this place.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then my goal with Ruby is to put her through hell because there's a glittering prize waiting on the other side of it. Um, Also, although this is less likely to come up now that Ruby is level 2 and has 8 hit points rather than 1, um, this
it's very
is.
easy to die in this game.
It is, which is one of the reasons why we chose this game. That was something that was important to us. Is we wanted a game where we could recycle characters quickly.
We wanted to explore setting more than we are through character,
Yeah.
right? So the idea is that Whispers of the Infinite is intended to be an anthology series, um, and where we are able to tell multiple stories about different characters as they go through this setting of post-apocalyptic space in
Mm-hmm.
Amber Theta.
Um, that is actually exactly where I was going with that. Is it is an anthology series. We have no idea how long we're going to stick with any character. We will stick with them until it
They
is.
die or reach a natural retiring point.
I was going to say when it is clear their story has come to an end,
Yeah,
whatever
become
that
like
end might
natural.
be.
Yeah, yeah,
Which, with a lot of our characters, is probably going to be death.
yes. But sometimes somebody might get arrested and it may not be that interesting to run a prison break or something like that. Or maybe someone will be corrupted and become a villain or something.
Mm-hmm. And a fun thing about this is Amber Theta is going to be my setting for Stars Without Number moving forward.
Hmm.
So all of Loremother's characters, they're affecting the setting moving forward.
Yeah. And so as as things happen, like as new stories develop, you know, we might like run into the same NPCs and things like that. And you know, it'll be really interesting to see how this whole thing develops. And I'm really enjoying exploring this as a one-on-one like experiment in world building,
Yeah,
and stories about character. But it would also be cool to do maybe a one shot every once in a while with a group of friends if we can get some people together.
I'm sure we can get some people together, especially if we continue with things like this, where because we are thinking about making this episode a reoccurring thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe after every episode, maybe every few episodes. We haven't decided that yet. But how we're just going to talk about more about the world, what happened in the last session. So this is going to be this is where we're going to try and dump all of the lore that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in fact, next time we do this, I'm going to talk about why this is a post-apocalypse. We'll talk about the apocalypse.
Yeah, we can talk about kind of the setting, the base setting of Stars Without Number as
Yes.
the system goes. Because that's the other thing is Stars Without Number is like, I mean, it's not an unknown system. When I mentioned it to people, they were like, and granted, these are people entrenched in tabletop games. They were like, "Oh, I love that game," but there are also a handful of people who probably haven't heard of Stars Without Number, and
Yeah.
so being able to show off this really cool game um, that's not that old, which is awesome considering it is inspired by older games, specifically Traveler, last you mentioned.
Yep.
Um, I don't know where I was going with that. We also kind of just kind of naturally kind of tangented. Did we answer some of the other questions that we had?
That was the big question that I saw. I left the stream going last week for probably almost half an hour afterward just to collect questions, but the
I
big
saw
question.
some from Wormet, but I think we answered a lot of them.
I think so.
Yeah.
If we did not, make sure you let us know.
Mm-hmm.
You can put it in to the Twitch chat, although that is probably the worst place to put it
Mm-hmm.
because we would need to remember it and copy it down somewhere.
Or go back and watch our VOD, which isn't always the thing you want to do.
I don't like doing that, especially because I have to listen. I don't like my voice. I have to listen to it a lot editing. Um, so having me scrub through a VOD without editing it or anything to find questions seems kind of terrible to me.
Yeah.
But um, you can always find us on Twitter. I am at WaywornWyrm. And
I'm at Loremother. You'd probably want to shoot me with more, I guess, Ruby specific questions or questions about why I did something as a player, um, and hit up Worm for some of the more lore related questions.
yeah. So that is probably the best place to contact us for that. Although, Whispers of the Infinite and this series, which we haven't decided on a name quite yet, but by the time it goes up, will have a name. Will also be going on my YouTube channel, where you can also find that as WaywornWyrm.
Mm-hmm.
And comments there, a lot easier to find.
Yep, absolutely. So if you leave a comment on this, if you are watching this on YouTube and you leave a comment there, it's very easy.
Yes.
I suppose you could also message us on Twitch, or can only friends do that? I'm not sure how that works actually.
I don't know because on Twitch I think it's called whispering, and it's annoying to try and deal with. I don't like dealing with it.
Okay, I've had one person message me. And I don't know. I don't know how to do this. That's why I'm the player.
This specifically being the video and streaming side of it. Although,
I'm good with video when it comes to making videos. I'm not good with live streaming and understanding Twitch and broadcasting. That is something that is a little new to me. So, I do have a certificate in video production and editing. Thank you very much.
fair, fair. Um, I was speaking primarily about Twitch, although you are streaming on Twitch now
I
under
am.
Loremother.
Yes, I am. If you want to follow me on Twitch, you can. You will probably find me mostly streaming indie RPG Maker games, and I've been playing Stardew Valley with Worm over here, which is fun.
I'm actually on the other side of you.
Oh, that's weird. Over here.
Pointing's probably for the best.
Yes. Um, and yeah, I hope we do that again soon. That would be fun.
Yeah, I had
You're
a great
great about
time.
it.
We did about a week's worth.
Hmm.
Um, it's basically just going to be finding time because I do a lot of stuff.
Vibe. Yeah, no, that's fair. I just finished up a project, and so I have a couple of other things I'm doing. At this point, we're just talking to each other now, so I think this might be a good place to end the video.
Yes,
And we
let
will
us
see
end
you
it
on
there.
Saturday for the next episode of Whispers of the Infinite.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.